Hello and welcome to day 169 of Dungeon 23, the series where we make a room of a mega dungeon every day for a year. Today's gonna be a little wacky goblin, as often the case for this floor, which is the goblin city, town, village level, which I basically just made because I watched a lot of Don't Starve Hamlet gameplay before I started making this level, so that's kind of what I'm going for, kind of. Anyway, so this guy's an inventor. There's a little inventor goblin, and just going through the order of which things are going to be interacted with. Probably the door first, because obviously they're going to hear stuff going on and they're going to want to bust it down. It's also the simplest. It is locked with a DC 17 lock, but it can be busted down with a DC 15 strength check, and its AC is 15, and it has 35 HP if they just want to start hacking at it with weapons. Now, why is the door locked? Because, well, the party needs to actually get in there. So, let's go to our Inventor Goblin first. He's just an Inventor Goblin. Basically just uses the commoner stat block, but he does have an intelligence of 17. So it's plus 3 to his intelligence modifier. And he has a Tinker's Tools as plus 7, because he's proficient with it. So he's proficiency bonus of 2, plus an additional bonus of 2 because it is expertise. And then plus 3 because it's his modifier, and so it's 7. And he's an inventor, it should be pretty high. Now, what happened to this inventor and what's going on here? Well, the inventor goblin spilled some coffee on his latest experiment, which is the auto goblin. Basically an auto gnome, but it's a goblin, causing it to go haywire and attack everything that isn't a construct. Because in the very rare scenario in which a player is a construct, in the case of them being an auto gnome or a warforged, then it's not going to attack them, which means they can help get on the inside of it and, come with a different approach, rather. Now, luckily, the inventor goblin is hiding on a shelf that it can't reach because the auto goblin is a small creature, so he just kind of scurried up a wall, hiding on a shelf, screaming for help, while this thing's just destroying a shop. Now, there's a DC 12 perception check for basically creatures walking near the house to hear the commotion, hear him screaming, hear him calling for help, all that stuff. And within, maybe 10 feet, 20, 30 feet of it, maybe not 30 feet, like 5, 10, 15. 20 feet of the house, they're going to hear the commotion. I assume the other goblins don't care because he's kind of a weirdo. The party probably will, because either they're good guys and they want to help out, or they're bad guys who are looking for an opportunity to steal something. Whatever reason, it's still a plot hook. Now, if the party breaks into the house and they basically save him from the auto goblin by smashing it and destroying it completely, he'll basically say, well, that sucks, but thanks for saving me, and for all your help, here's my latest invention. Well, second latest invention. His latest invention tried to kill him. And it is the Scuba-Matic 9000. It's basically a scuba mask breather thing. Whenever you wear it, you could breathe underwater for an hour, because it basically has an hour air supply in it. And it also grants advantage on saves versus spells like Stinking Cloud and Cloud Kill. Basically anything that involves poison gas or fumes, or basically anything that's in the air that causes you to breathe in and exhale and get poisoned or injured that way. It's going to give you advantage on those saves. If the party manages to disable it without it getting destroyed or blowing up or basically going to 0 hit points, then he will just allow the party to keep it, the auto goblin, because he doesn't want anything to do with it. I have a little quote here: because I don't want to be around when it goes haywire again, which is going to obviously suggest that it's going to go haywire again, which it probably will when we get to it. Now, if they take it, then he will be willing to sell the Scuba-Matic to them for 100 wooden nickels, which is a lot, relatively speaking, but it's valuable, and also they're getting this valuable, basically, follower. That's this little auto goblin guy. But if they refuse to take the auto goblin, then he's just going to give them the Scuba-Matic for free. So no matter what they do, there's always an option of getting the Scuba-Matic. In fact, they're probably going to get it unless they're really, really smart and clever in dealing with this guy. But there's always an option of getting it, where there isn't always an option of getting to keep the auto goblin. Regardless of whether or not they take it or take the scuba gear or any of that nonsense, as long as they basically save him, he will be happy to help them build a new call button for the bathysphere. He'll just go and fix it. It'll take a day or so, maybe a couple hours. By the time the party gets all the other stuff, it'll be done and ready to go. And that's just a little call button there to make sure they can come back up if they want to. Now, that's basically the Goblin Inventor, and now on to the actual star of the show, the Auto Goblin. I was just scrolling through the monster manuals collection thing. I think it's actually from, let's see here. I'm actually not sure where it is, but from the compendium. Basically, the Auto Goblin just uses the Auto Gnome stat block. It's a CR2 construct, a small construct obviously, and it has like 2 attacks that do lightning damage. It doesn't do a lot of damage and whatever, but it has a really cool malfunction feature where whenever it takes at least 15 points of damage, it rolls on a table, and depending on what it rolls, it gets a new malfunction. Most of the time it doesn't, but it could get things like its head falls off and it's blinded deafened, or one of its arms falls off and it has to reattach it with an action, otherwise it can't use its shock attack, or it's down to a shock attack. Instead of 2, it only has 1, that kind of thing. Or one where it just becomes incapacitated for a minute. And the funniest one is that it just says, "Have a nice day," and it explodes. Actually, I think it says, "Have a magical day." Yeah, that fits better with gnome technology. But yeah, so it could just explode if the party does enough, like 15 points of damage to it. It's not the most common thing. There's like a 17 to 20 on a d20, so there's like a 15% chance it just explodes. And of course, there's damage and a radius around it. Now, as I said before, the Auto Goblin is gone rogue, and is just attacking everything around it that isn't a construct. If it's held prone for at least 3 rounds, a party member, or the Inventor Goblin, if the party coaxes him down, can make a DC 17 Tinker's Tools or Arcana check to basically reprogram it to just deactivate the Auto Goblin, basically shut it down, and it's deactivated. If the check is a critical success, then the Auto Goblin is just automatically reprogrammed to be non-hostile and loyal, which is what it's originally intended. Now, again, the Inventor Goblin, yeah, he's going to be happy his invention works for now, but he's 90% sure this thing's going to go haywire again. And it will, because the next time it takes 15 damage and it rolls on that malfunction chart, if it gets a malfunction, which is like a 50% chance of happening, then it's automatically going to go rogue again, and as its first malfunction. It's going to attack everything around it that isn't a construct, the closest thing. So if the party is fighting like, I don't know, like some more skeletons in like a deeper part of the dungeon, and it takes like 16, 17 damage, it's going to have to roll on that chart, and there's like a 50% chance it's going to just turn on the party immediately, because if the party is closer to it, then it's just going to start attacking whatever's around it. So it's probably not going to be around for too long, because again, there's like a 15% chance it explodes whenever it malfunctions. It's probably going to turn on the party again. It's unlikely the party's even going to be able to get it, because they're probably just going to blow it up anyway. So it's a very hard thing to acquire, but if they do, they're not going to have it for a long time, but it is going to be really cool when they have it. And maybe if the party makes a lot of like really good Tinker's Tools checks and Arcana checks, and they could probably like either salvage the parts, like make armor out of its bits, or make weapons, or just repair it, use it to repair their other stuff. Maybe like an artificer, then you can use it to like maybe upgrade your little robot dog, your steel defender or whatever, or have your steel defender become this thing. I don't know, just allow some improvisation, because that's 90% of D&D. So yeah, this is room 169, just a really fun interaction between a crazy goblin and his wacky robot. If you want to see more wacky goblin shenanigans and wacky weirdness in general, then consider liking the video, commenting down below, subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, all that stuff, so that way these videos will show up in your recommendations more often. Or you could just come back tomorrow, because these videos are daily, as the challenge is daily. Obviously, I've been doing it for 170 days so far, well, almost 170 days so far, so it's just going to keep happening, whether you want it to or not. So yeah, thanks for watching and or listening. I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to improve.